as soon as I like go to sit down, Gia wakes up from his nap.
hear-
I'm like, you've been
they
napping
hear
for
you.
20 minutes. Like, what do you mean? Like, you should
Mom
be sleeping
needs
for another
me.
hour.
Don't contact me. Don't contact my family.
Okay.
Um,
That went 0 to 100.
I know.
Gia wanted a bite, and all I could see was like the red M&Ms, and so I just started like, biting them off.
I don't want to say his name, but my husband walked outside, sat right next to me, and starts watching reels on his phone. I was like,
I want to like do every single event at school and help and volunteer at everything and be at everything for
you are
church.
so much better than I ever was.
But I also have to
super
know,
mom.
like, hey, I can't. Like, it's okay. I'm going to have to say no to
Yeah.
that, and that's okay.
Hey, welcome back to All Things Mom Pod. We're so glad that you have tuned in with us today. And today we're going to be covering maybe a little bit of a hard topic called boundaries.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dum, dum, dum. Kick us off.
Boundaries.
Yes.
If you want to know what like kicked off my desire to go into therapy this past year, it was boundaries. It was 100% boundaries. And I don't think I really realized how much I struggled with boundaries until I had my son. And at first, I think I would have labeled myself as helpful. I loved helping people. I loved jumping in wherever the need was. I wanted to be the one to handle it. I wanted to be a problem solver, solution finder. And I began to realize that I wasn't really helping as much as I was maybe taking on desires to fix things and control things. And if I was involved, then I could control the outcome. And so I realized after I had Gio that this was not like a sustainable way of life. And so I went into therapy for boundaries. And I am a chronic people pleaser and really bought like, what are boundaries? Because I think of a lot of times when we think of boundaries, we think of walls, we think of rigid rules.
Yeah.
We think of a lot of no, like no, I'm not going to, I'm not going to, I'm not going to. But the best thing that my therapist ever told me about boundaries is that boundaries are like gates. And so in the Bible, there were multiple different gates. You had like this marketplace, then you had the court, and then you had the house. And to each like section, there was a gate. And only certain people were allowed into certain parts of each of these sections. And so part of boundaries is deciding who you're going to open the gate for.
That's cool.
It's not an excuse to be rigid. It's not an excuse to be isolated. And so I think a lot of times when we think of boundaries, we feel bad for saying no, right? We think that we're going to hurt people's feelings. We're scared that people are going to be mad at us. And that's ultimately why people don't set boundaries at all. It's because they're afraid of letting people down. They're afraid of what someone will say or of pushback. And really what I had to realize is that boundaries, at the end of the day, are expectations that keep me healthy. They're limits that keep me mentally healthy, emotionally healthy. And it's been like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, specifically with like when I set a boundary, something I'm not comfortable with. I think I've been shocked at how much I have to reiterate it, because we think that like if we just say, this is my boundary, and then someone steps on it, we're like, what do you mean? Like, you're not listening to me? What's going on? But it's like, at the end of the day, you have to keep yourself healthy. You have to keep your boundaries. People don't know what you want. People aren't knowing what you're thinking. And so, I don't know, boundaries have been like a really big lesson for me. And I only have one child. I am still relatively newly married. And so I would love to hear from you guys, areas of your life that you've maybe had to establish boundaries, whether it's with work or in relationships. And what does that look like for you?
I feel like this is one of those like big girl conversations that makes me feel like I'm not an adult yet. Because I'm like, do I have boundaries? No. Should I get them? Maybe. Probably. You know? Well, that whole gate concept that like unlocked something in my mind and in my heart, I think. Because I've always, boundaries to me is like saying no, keep out, a stone wall. But I love that. It's who you allow in. And there's different people that you allow in to speak into different things. That's so good. And a gate means they can come in, and a gate means they can leave.
That's right.
Sometimes they need to leave quicker than they do. But I think about boundaries. I'm trying as a mom to create boundaries for myself with my time. For example, our 3-year-old lately found my old phone. And he is like constantly walking around with it up to his ear. It's really cute and hilarious. And he's like texting. It's dead, like it's not even on. And the other day I said, all right, buddy, let's go. And he goes, Mom, shh, sorry. And he kept talking on the phone. And I was like,
Buddy.
excuse me? Wait, he hears me
He learned
doing
it.
that. And he's like,
He
Jake.
learned it.
And so, and our 8-year-old, Mom, you're on your phone a lot. And so we have those conversations. I think we've talked about this before. Like, it's a busy season right now. Like, we're gearing up for Easter. We're gearing up for or Christmas. Or I'm learning to set boundaries for myself. Like, I mean, there's all kinds of cool things you can do with your phone. With how long do you spend on your phone? You can set limits for yourself for social media. You can put it on Do Not Disturb after a certain time at night, so that if your phone's blowing up, you don't really hear it because it's on Do Not Disturb. So I'm like learning for myself boundaries. Even I don't even know. Maybe that's more like self-discipline. I don't know if that's considered boundaries, but it's a work. Honestly, so to answer your question, I'm not equipped for this topic because I'm still learning.
I think we're all still learning.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's something that's always evolving. I think, just depending on who's coming in your life and what situation you're in, or, whatever life season you're in, I think boundaries are different. I think they're ever changing,
Yeah,
that's
for
true.
sure.
depending on what you need for your own health.
Yeah, that's
good.
good. Could you, like, in this last season when you were going through therapy, like, could you talk to us maybe some of those examples?
Yeah, a lot of it had to do, I think, with like interpersonal relationships for sure. But then also, like, if you even think about like work, like, of course, like ministry's 24/7, motherhood's 24/7. And so just kind of navigating some of those boundaries, like, how do you say no? How do you say no gracefully? How do you not overcommit? And part of it is, I think, like, I told Aaron this, but like my word of the year for last year was health. I just wanted to be healthy. And I think boundaries were a really big part of me getting healthy. And something that my therapist talked about was, that you are crossing a personal boundary when you have a physical response to something.
Wow.
So for example, hey, I know it's your only off day. I need you to come help me move. And you just get that twisty feeling in your stomach, or, hey, it's midnight. Can I call you? I'm having a meltdown. And I'm like, I just like sat down. You know what I mean? And you just kind of have that, like, that,
really
that
good.
tightening in your chest. It's like, I'm not equipped for that right now. I can't handle that right now. Not that I don't have time for you. Let's get coffee in the morning. Hey, let's set up a meeting on Tuesday. That sort of thing. But you're crossing a boundary when you have a physical response. And then she also said that as women, we are like inherently wired to help, right? So like we were helpmate. That's what we were designed to do. We have a desire to help. We have a desire to come alongside. But we know we're crossing that boundary when the joy of helping turns into resentment. Like,
good.
I'm willing to help you, but like, I'm going to be annoyed, or I'm going to complain about it to my husband, or I'm going to, I can't believe I have to go to so-and-so's house to help them move, or like you're dreading
really
that
good.
coffee. It's like, okay, this is a sign that I have too much on my plate right now and I need to reprioritize. And so for me, I think like an example of like boundary setting is, I think I was much more reactive. So for example, like when problems were coming my way, when my family needed something, like it was just always like deal with it in the moment. And then I found myself so like overstimulated, overwhelmed, emotionally drained. And when I like wasn't able to be present with my kid because I was constantly dealing with everyone else's issues, that was a sign for me to say, pause.
That's good.
We're not going to be reactive anymore.
Yeah.
We're not going to ignore, but we are going to set a date for when we're going to deal with this thing instead of feeling the need to be on all the time. I think that was like a really important part of me navigating like peace. And I kind of talked about this in a previous podcast, but like I used to answer emails, all kinds of emails, all hours of the night.
Yeah.
Like just because I would see the notification come on my phone and then I'm not present with my husband. He finally gets home. We're trying to talk about our day and I'm distracted by this thing that's going on. And so I think just setting limits for when I deal with things. It's not that I don't deal with things.
Right.
It's
That's
not
good.
that boundaries are me saying, no, 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 I'm not accessible. It's just about when I'm going to open that gate.
Yeah.
It's not that you're not welcome in the gate. It's just when am I going to open it?
Identifying what's urgent and what isn't.
That's
good.
correct. That was a really big
good.
part of boundaries for me in that
really
season,
good.
for sure.
Wow.
It's really good.
How do you guys feel like maybe your boundaries have helped you stay healthy? So maybe it's like boundaries with like time with your spouse. Like, how do you go about that? What do you, boundaries with your kids?
That's good.
I want to know.
Yeah. My small group, we just wrapped up an awesome semester and actually read a book that Erin recommended to me that you read like years ago,
The
right?
book Queen.
Oh, it was in this. Well, it was from the other Sarah that we love. She recommended, it was my first small group I was in with her.
Yeah. And so the whole concept is really all about the story of Martha and Mary in the Bible. And it was really what it boils down to is how do I find intimacy with God in the busyness of life? And it was life-changing for me. So I would say, to answer your question, the boundary I'm most trying to protect, and I'm not, it's not perfect, but it's just my time with the Lord. Because I'm like, if I can get that right, if I can get that right, everything else flows from such a better spirit. And the way that I'm treating my kids and the way that I'm treating my husband. And again, it's not perfect, but it's, hey, can I set this boundary and have this time with Christ? Because everything will be better.
That's good.
So I feel like that's something I'm trying to proactively just be
What
better
does that
at.
look like for you practically? Because I just know, like, for me, I swear, as soon as I like go to sit down, Gia wakes up from
They
his nap.
hear-
I'm like, you've been
they hear
napping for
you.
20 minutes. Like, what do you mean? Like, you should
Mom
be sleeping for
needs
another
me.
hour.
Yeah.
Or it's like, okay, like he's gonna watch Dory.
Yeah.
Right,
So I'm
right,
like, I'm
right.
gonna, slip away over to the dining room table, and it's like, book, pen, right? And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so you just kind of feel like, I don't know. I know for me, sometimes I almost feel like resentful is maybe the wrong word, not of my child, but even just like that my spouse gets this freedom to like meet with God whenever uninterrupted. And you're just like, man, like, how do I protect that time? Because I need that time. So what does that look like for you practically? Because you have 4.
Yeah.
I have 1. So you're doing better than me.
Well, I'm trying. Also, I think that's the concept in all of this is like,
good.
hey, we're just trying.
Yeah.
We're not perfect at setting all these boundaries, right?
Yep.
But we're trying. And that's all that the Lord can expect of us. So I know Erin is an early riser, and that's when her time is. And I tried that. I tried so hard to be like a morning person. And I'm like, Josie was waking up at 6. So I'm like, yeah, I guess I could wake up at 5, but
It's still dark. Like,
I
the
guess I could
sun's
just
even
not
awake.
sleep. Yeah.
So I've chosen my time to be at night and
That's
just
good.
to be okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And my kids go to bed really early, and I do feel like that can be a time of that's where I'm communing with the Lord. And that's showing up to the living room. And what this book really just encourages you with is don't put these crazy expectations around it. And it actually gives the example, Erin's talked about it a lot too, but take a basket and put your Bible in it, put your notebook, and find that space. Find that space in your house.
Make that space.
Yeah, and
create
make it.
Create a space that's
Yeah. And
comfortable.
yeah, and it's crazy to me that like I feel like previously I spent time with God when it felt right or when I wanted to.
Yeah.
But just to say, okay, I'm going to show up, God. I'm going to show up. And I know you're there and I know you're ready to meet me. And so I don't know if I've got this whole boundary thing right with a lot of the things you guys are talking about, but I'm like, hey, one thing I'm just trying is that,
That's really good.
I don't know.
It's really cool.
Have you ever experienced like challenges with boundaries? Maybe you've attempted to set a boundary and it hasn't been well received, or maybe it didn't work out like you thought it would.
Gosh.
Unfortunately, I think with my personality,
I'm
Were
sorry.
you gonna say something?
Nope. Not important.
Were we talking at the same time?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't know.
would you like to go?
No. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Accurate.
Tag.
I don't know. I just keep thinking, or we're talking about boundaries. So what's going through my head is all the times I've not had boundaries, but I should have, or the people. And then I keep
Yeah.
thinking about, they're going to listen to this. It's going to be bad again. Like, that's what's going on in my head. So I'm just going to let that go. Tag, you're it.
Tag.
Accurate.
I think for my personality type, I don't like confrontation. And I think when I do draw a boundary, it's a hard boundary. And it's a hard boundary because you are affecting my life in an extremely negative way. So I probably could be better at the short-term boundary.
that protect you from.
Yeah. But as far as like the hard boundaries, you know, when my girls were younger, we had family members that it was dysfunctional, it was chaotic, and it was not healthy for my girls to experience what was going on in some family member's life. And there was just a hard boundary of, you know, okay, we're just, you are removed. Your behavior is so bad, you are removed. And that's, I guess, what I would call like a hard boundary.
That's good.
But again, that's just that protective thing. But I could definitely do better with the the more short-term boundaries. And I think even with the hard boundary being set, it doesn't mean that that's forever, because people can change and people can be better. They can better themselves.
That's good.
But I think we all need to be better with boundaries for sure.
It's good.
Absolutely.
And again, I think you have to consider like the long-term health of a relationship. If you not setting boundaries is creating resentment or even just like conflict that you're internalizing, like you're basically setting an expiration date on that relationship because
that's a
of
great way
your
to say
lack
it.
of communication. So I think just feeling permission to be okay with short-term disappointment or short-term unmet expectations on there, and like, oh, I thought you would say yes to that. Why aren't you saying yes to that? What's wrong? Why you've never had an issue before with loaning me money. You've never had an issue before with watching my kids. You know what I mean? Like,
That's good.
I just can't do that right now.
Yeah.
And so a big part of what my therapist is talking is just explaining the why. You don't have to go into all these reasons, because some people take advantage of that and they like, well, you could figure out this, and you could figure out that. It's like, I'm setting this boundary because of this. I love you, and I hope that you can respect that. And you just repeat it as many times as you have to. And eventually, if that person really loves you and respects you, they'll respect the boundary. And like you said, it's not always a forever thing. Sometimes it's just a seasonal thing. Like I'm just in a season right now where I can't do all of these like random meetups and coffees and lunches and dinners, and like that's just not my season right now. And so I'll take a call. We can do a coffee. You know, I can't meet with you weekly. I'm not calling you weekly, but let's meet up. Let's do things within, you know, I don't know. So that's kind of been something I've been working through.
That's good.
But I do think that there's a difference between boundaries and then being controlling and restrictive and rigid. And so I'd be curious to hear from you guys. What do you think the differences are? How do you know, like, you feel that physical response, like something's off, I need to set a boundary. How do you know if it's a healthy boundary or an unhealthy boundary?
Those are great questions. I mean, it sounds like it all comes back to you're protecting your peace. Like,
Yeah,
and you're the
the word peace
only
came to
one.
mind.
Yeah, like you're the only one that can do that. You're the only one that fully knows, is fully aware of what the Lord, like with our children, He gave those children to us. Like, we are the ones that are on this earth to protect them. Who was it that posted? Was it one of y'all that posted recently? Like, if it's something that costs you your peace, then it's too expensive. Like, it's not worth it. And so a healthy boundary would be like you're asking yourself, is this to protect my peace, my family? Like Pastor reminds us all the time, and you remind us all the time, like our family unit, meaning your people in your home, is your most important ministry first. Like, and as women of the home, I know we all take that very seriously. That's our domain. Yes, we do work outside the home as well, but like we protect the peace and the health within our home. And so a healthy boundary is like, what's the purpose of it? It's to protect the peace. So maybe that would mean an unhealthy boundary is like, okay, are you just trying to control someone else? Like maybe it comes back to your motive.
Yeah, for sure.
Like what's your reasoning for it? But
Yeah, motive. Are you protecting your peace, or are you just trying to get back at somebody?
yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think I think there's a physical response to that too. Because I think when you're setting a boundary for the wrong reason, I think that response is also physical. You know, it's revenge, it's anger, it's
good.
maybe even anxiety because you're just obsessive about the thought.
Yeah.
I know for me, I know that I have to set a boundary anytime I notice that something's impacting my kid, whether it's
That's good.
like my phone, whether
Yeah.
it's a person. There are just, I don't know, some people that my kid just, I don't know, he gets weird around. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to listen to that. I'm going to limit that. I'm going to watch that. And so I don't have to know why. I just know that my job is to protect my kid and that's it. But yeah, I think controlling the outcome is really where a lot of things get sticky. And then too, just even going back to the, like, is your first response always no?
That's a good
Because like, I think
Yes.
like
Is that a 9 thing?
I don't know what it is.
the important thing is you say no and then you're like, okay, I've thought about
Yeah.
it. I'll come around.
Yeah.
But I think like, yeah, is your heart to help? Like, is your heart to help? And so if you're always saying no, if you're always unavailable, if you're always inaccessible, if you're never, ever going out of your way to serve someone else, I think that's maybe a sign that
It's a good.
things are off. And I think like you're probably the best at that.
Yeah.
Like you are so good about like,
I think I'm
just
the worst
meeting
at setting
people-
boundaries, though.
I
I'm like
think you're the
listening to you guys, and I'm like, oh man.
but I think you're so good at like, when you're with your kids, you're so intentional with your
Yep,
kids. When
yep.
you're serving people, you're so intentional about meeting them where they are. And I think anytime that if you have a lack of boundaries, it's because you're doing things late at night, but that's after your kids are asleep, you know, so you're not letting other people impede on their time. So
Yeah.
you're really good at that.
Well, I just feel like as you guys are talking to, I want this to be a challenge, like to me
That's
in
good.
this season, because I think what's so beautiful, truly, about women and friendship and doing life together is where you guys are strong, or maybe I'm weak. It's like, hey, teach me.
That's
Teach
good.
me, guys. Help me be better in this. And I want to be better. I want to be better in that. And I think the thing is, yeah, I do have 4 kids. I work at the church. Our life is really busy. And learning, I remember years ago, someone in college gave me the example of like, think of a big jar, okay? And you've got all these things from the day. And like, you've got big rocks you've got to put in there, and then you've got pebbles, you know? And so it's like, how can I shift my mindset of prioritizing my
Yeah.
day
That's
and
good.
filling it with the big rocks instead of letting my inbox drive my day, right?
So true.
And so letting those big rocks really stay the big rocks, and me doing a better job determining what those are, and then 2, defining that it's okay to say no to great things.
True.
Because that's the thing too, is I want to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do it all. I want to like do every single event at school and help and volunteer at everything and be at everything for church.
So much better than I ever was.
But I also have to
Rachel's
know,
super
like,
mom.
hey, I can't. Like, it's okay. I'm going to have to say no to
Yeah.
that. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. I can't, you can't do it all and do it all well.
Yeah.
Something
You
I
know?
talk to our interns about is sometimes saying no in the present means saying yes to the future. And so
good.
if you are, let's say I meet with someone every week for a month straight. Well, every time I meet with them, they're getting 25% of me. You know what I mean? It's like not that much can change in a week. But if I'm saying, no, I'm not going to meet with you every week, but why don't we meet the last week of every month? They're getting 100% of my attention. Like,
That's good.
because I know this is my one concentrated time. This is the one
really
thing.
good.
So sometimes just saying no, it's not a rejection as much as it is a prioritization.
It's good.
So I think just being okay that sometimes you're saying no to like mediocre or average to like give them your best.
That's
And so
good.
that might hurt in the moment.
Really good perspective.
But ultimately it's what's best for those people too.
That's good.
I think another area I really struggle with boundaries personally, I had to do the app limits is
Yeah.
with social media. I feel like it is such a vacuum of like focus and comparison, and you're constantly connected, and people have this instant access to your life. I saw this quote like on a reel, haha,
Yeah.
this is whatever. Anyway, it's like we were not meant to have this much access to other people's lives. And that thought like really shook me, is like, I'm not supposed to know what you're doing on a Thursday.
right.
I'm not supposed to
good.
know. And I'm not like to be jealous of that or compare or whatever. Like that's not healthy. And so how can you establish healthy boundaries with a very connected world. How do you guys manage boundaries with technology? I know I did the app limits. That's helped. Do
Yeah,
I
I'm
still
not-
sometimes hit the remind me in 15
Every
minutes?
time, me.
It's
yes.
always when Gio's asleep and it's like late at night
Yeah.
and I'm like ready to doom scroll and like
Yeah.
you know,
Doom scroll.
like, just decompress from my day. But the app limits have helped for sure.
For
good.
me, I know, like the whole influencer concept.
Yeah.
There's some really cool people out there doing some really cool things, and I don't know if it was like jealousy for me at first, but if it's gotten to a point where an account makes me see their life and then view my life negatively in comparison, it's like an immediate unfollow for me. Now that means like I'm not usually up on the latest trends, like what socks to wear, but you know, like the long socks, the short socks, the no socks. I don't know, and honestly, I don't really care right now because I don't even have match socks. No one in my family has match socks, so I don't care.
I wish you guys could see the Instagram posts that Aaron sends me. I'm like, how are these on your what's it called?
I don't know.
Algorithm? Like,
you know,
I'm like,
that one where you selected and like random things show up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
it's just fun to do. Like, what's gonna be funny? And I get the most random junk, and I just send it to Rachel because it's funny.
so weird.
But it's so weird. Anyway, so for me, it's like it's unfollowing some of
That's
those
good.
people that again are challenging my inner peace or my peace in my home, or
That's
to just like help me to just not care about that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, my house isn't always going to be clean, and it's not always going to be put together and matching. And but we went outside. Oh, okay, here's one. I did text Rachel this on Sunday night. I don't really know what happened with our day. It was 10:30 at night, and my whole family, me and my husband, my 3-year-old, and my 8-year-old, were out on our back deck eating McDonald's. 10:30 p.m. at night. And in my head, initially, I was like, oh, you're a terrible mom. They should be in bed right now. But then I was like, you know what? We're making a memory. This is fun. It's summer. Who cares? There's no nutritional value anyway. And so, like, I think, like,
I love it.
it's like that has nothing to do with boundaries except for something that I'm like just trying to.
boundaries? Yeah,
I think comparison. Like
Yeah.
I know for social media for me, I'm always like it's always like home decor.
I know.
Always.
And I'm like,
So dumb.
my house doesn't look like that.
I
My house
know.
should feel more. I need more books. And then I'm like, Gio's gonna like rip the pages out. Like,
Yeah.
why do I even care?
More books.
Yeah, everyone has so many books.
You're right. You're right.
Coffee table books, the TV stand books, the entry table books. You never open that. You've
Yeah, and
never,
it's like-
I know you paid $40 for that book.
And you dust
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
You gotta dust
you
that.
dust it.
You
but
just
you've
don't open
never
it.
opened up Architectural Digest.
So it's like
I'm sorry.
an immediate unfollow.
haven't.
No, that's so good. So just
That's awesome.
unfollow. Hit that. It's so simple. Just and now you can always jump
So
back into
true.
it. You can always follow again.
Yeah.
But for me, it was a little bit of a cleanse.
It's
I had a
good.
mom tell me that it's the spirit of your home that matters.
That's
like when
good.
people like walk into your home, like what do they feel when your children are in your home? What
Yeah.
do they feel?
That's
And so
good.
I just even think like the memory of like being on the back porch, like
Yes.
eating a
Absolutely.
McChicken with my mom. Like
Come
what a
on.
cool-
It was a McDouble, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
even better, honestly.
Yeah. So good.
I don't know. I look back on stuff like that all the time as a kid.
It's gonna be a memory. So what do you think of when we would take family vacations to Florida and we're in the pool, and what food did you eat poolside?
Chick-fil-A.
Thank you.
And now
Wow.
I
Come
always
on.
associate the pool with Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I love that.
And I
So you
and
were
I
making
can't
a
wait.
memory.
Making a memory.
love that.
See?
Yeah.
I
yeah.
love it.
I guess the boundary there would be no boundary. It was bad food, bad timing, no routine.
But that's not a consistent thing in your life. I mean,
right.
Right.
okay. Well, maybe the McDouble.
Yeah. I do love a good McDouble. You're right. No, it has been fun to let the rules loose a little for
It's
summer.
summer.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
fun.
Summer.
I love that.
We tried
It's
the
good.
new McFlurry. Have you guys tried that?
The new McFlurry?
I don't really recommend
There's
it.
a new
but
one?
What
There's
is
a
it?
new one. It's called Grandma's McFlurry with Grandma's. If you like butterscotch, you'll like it. I'm not really a butterscotch
Wow.
fan, so
Okay.
anyway.
I'm more of
yeah.
like a traditional Oreo kind of girl.
Yep.
Luke likes M&M, which I think is so despicable.
Yeah.
I love M&M.
You guys are related.
Yeah, you
Somehow, somewhere down the family tree,
So
Yeah, you
crazy.
need to-
Luke and Rachel
Look at your
are
DNA.
I
related.
love Pastor Luke, man. He's my bro.
Yeah, there's so much in common there. But the M&Ms, the dye goes everywhere. They're
It's
crunchy.
hard and
It's
frozen
the
and
dye
waxy.
that offends you.
Me and Hallie were at the pool this past
Tuesday?
week.
Was it Tuesday?
It was
nights.
Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
Swim nights.
And
Tuesday
we
swim
we
nights.
Is there
got,
food at the pool?
Yes.
Oh.
So we were
Yeah, I
able to
hear
get dinner.
Okay.
Sit by the pool.
Wow.
A chicken Caesar salad wrap.
Come on.
And we were gonna get ice cream, but they were out, so they got these like ice cream sandwiches, and like it was a M&M sugar cookie with like
Oh.
vanilla ice cream in the middle.
Classic.
And Gio wanted a bite, and all I could see was like the red M&Ms, and so I just started like biting them off. I was like, you can't. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "The dye." So I'm like eating the
my
orange, the
God.
yellow. I only left the brown M&Ms for him, and he was like staring at me. Anyway, speaking of our kids, Gio's watching me set that boundary. How do we help our kids set healthy boundaries?
Great
They're
question.
watching us, you know? So how do we help them learn how to
good.
set boundaries?
The one that comes to mind with Taylor right now, so as an 8-year-old, at least for her personality, she does really well if we talk it out in advance. She doesn't like
good.
surprises. But so one boundary we've been talking about lately in our home, we have chosen as a family, we don't do sleepovers. Specifically, like with other girls or coming to our house. Either way, she can absolutely go to the party, but she won't stay overnight. She can stay there late, and she won't stay overnight. And so that has been so easy to talk about until we got an invite. And it was like I had crushed her world. But it was a great opportunity to be like, remember, this isn't new. We've been talking about this for a month. And so it actually worked out so awesome. Camaraderie with motherhood. There was another mom they have a similar rule. We didn't even know that. So the girls got to like ride together, which was so fun.
Cute.
But it's just been a cool opportunity and a reminder to me, just talk it out. Like, let me
Yeah.
tell you why. And it's not to scare her. I don't give her like really big details of
details,
why,
yeah.
but just to
Right.
say, hey, nothing really fun happens super late at night. Like, let's get a good night's sleep. And there was another mom that told me, have we talked about this on a podcast yet? I don't know. Maybe we've just talked about it in our circle.
I don't think so.
Another mom who has a similar rule, she said that she tries to plan something really fun the next day as a, hey, so sorry she can't spend the night because XYZ, we had this planned. She said, usually we don't have anything planned. I just like, we're having
that's
donuts by the
cool.
pond,
Yeah.
you know, like something
Yeah.
random. But but then like,
Donuts by the
but you know how
pond.
kids are. They're like, oh, wow, yeah, with pink sprinkles, you know, just something.
that's
to make
really
us-
good.
To give them
Fun, like-
something to look forward to. They still can take their PJs. So that's the first example that's come to mind of something we're just trying to help Taylor
No, that's
That's
good.
really good.
set.
I
That's
feel like
good.
you and Dad were so good about that as I was growing up, just explaining the why. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really remember a lot of rules, but I do remember boundaries, but I always understood the why. And it didn't mean that I didn't challenge them. It
Sure.
didn't mean I didn't ask. It didn't mean that when I approached different ages that I
Yeah.
was like, hey, this has been a boundary for 2 years. I think
Let's
it's, time
reconsider.
to up my curfew. It doesn't mean that we didn't engage in conversations. But the fact that you guys allowed me to have those conversations
That's
and that
good.
it wasn't just met with, again, like the rigid, controlling, restrictive, no, no, no,
Yeah.
but it was met with understanding. I think as an
That's good.
adult, I've been able to process better. Does
That's
that make
good.
sense? When I
Yeah.
understand where things are coming from, I think it's helped me become a cognizant adult
Yeah.
instead of just blindly following rules or authority. So I think
That's
it's
good.
important, to teach your kids about boundaries, but also the why behind them.
That's good. It's really good.
Gio's not even 2 yet, but I think like we're in like the boundaries stage of like he's testing boundaries.
Yes.
And so I didn't realize how much of a pushover I was.
Oh.
We actually like did like a scale of like who's the most strict to the least strict in out of me and Luke and my parents, and it goes least strict, my dad. For
Absolutely.
sure. Oh my gosh. Nothing that child can do.
100%.
That's
Then
why he's
it's
a great
me.
grandpa.
Wow.
Then it's me. Then it's my mom. And then it's Luke. Luke is like determined to not let Gio be a menace. And I'm like, he's a boy. He needs to explore and figure things out.
Yeah.
But maybe
That's
that's like
awesome.
toxic boy mom energy, and I need to I need to resolve that in my own soul. Anyway, so we're learning how to like follow through on our no, which I think is even a good lesson for me, like in my adult life. Like
Yeah.
when I say something, I have to mean that thing. And there's all this research out there that talks about how, like, when you don't follow through with your kid, it creates, like, trust issues. Because it's like, are you going to do what you said you were going to do?
Yeah.
So even in, like, the little things that might upset them, it's important to be consistent. But then also with Gio, like, we're never going to force him to, like, hug people he doesn't want to hug or, you know, whatever. We're just like, you don't have to do that. That's fine. If you don't want to eat that, we don't care. Like, we allow him to set his own boundaries for his little world. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, we'll be playing around, and I'll, you know, I'll say, I'm going to get you. And if he says no,
because he gets scared sometimes.
and I'm like, okay, I won't.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. I love that you
it's
said that
good.
about hugging, like, because that is a bit. You're teaching them the power of no. That they have a voice. They have it. Like, would you like to give them a hug goodbye? No. Okay. Why don't you tell me you had so much fun?
Yeah.
That's been something that we've.
Say see you soon. You know,
just do
can you
something
wave?
that-
Can
if
you
he-
blow him a kiss? Can you give him a
If he
fist
doesn't want
bump?
to give a hug, I'm like, well, can I have a fist bump?
Yeah.
No.
Sweet. And
Yeah.
then he'll do that.
The way I see it, like, it's his little body, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't like being hugged.
Yep.
What? If someone was like, you have to hug them goodbye. I don't even do that as an adult. You know? Like, it's
True.
gonna,
Why do we put this expectation on little,
It's like,
you know,
that's
good.
children?
if he doesn't
It's
want
true.
to, I don't care.
Yeah.
Sorry if that hurts your feelings. That's a weirder problem with you,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
It's a weirder problem.
True. Right?
We like with food too. One thing Taylor's been learning is like, okay, when you're full, stop eating, or
Listen to your body.
yeah, listen to your body, and like words like I'm feeling. We're trying to learn to stop using like I feel big or the word fat, the word like some of these words where should an 8-year-old really be using that type of word about herself
Wow.
or about someone else? No, it's not. She doesn't need that. So our one rule with food at the dinner table lately has been you have to try it on your plate. You don't have to like it. You got to try it. You don't have to like it. And every time asparagus is on her plate, we already know she's not going to like it. I hate that food. Okay, you got to try it. You don't have to like it. Just in case her taste buds might change.
At least she
But
tries it.
She every time, very dramatically. But at
Lauren.
least she tries it.
They tried everything with
We tried
Lauren.
everything with Lauren. I was even like, you just try it. If you hate it, spit it out. No. We tried a lot of different things.
Man.
Good for you.
It
At least
doesn't
she puts
always
it in her
work,
mouth.
but yeah. Ranch helps a lot with that too.
Ranch.
Dip, dip.
Yep.
Get you a good dip, dip.
I think a thing that really helped me that you taught me as a child, like with boundaries, was if it feels yucky, it is yucky. Like I didn't always know how to
We all
maybe
say that, yeah.
Yep.
like express that something doesn't feel right or that like or why I didn't want to do something. But like it just if it feels yucky, it is yucky. And so I will be Gio's almost to that age where we can begin saying that. So if you just got an uh-oh feeling, you listen to that and you come find me
That's good.
immediately.
That's good.
And so I think that's also a way that you can kind of help your kids without, like you said, like going into like scary details or like creating like a spirit of fear in them.
Yeah.
I think that's a way
It's
that
really
you can
good.
do that as well.
Really good.
You told us one time too, Sarah, that a kid will or your child will ask you the level of question that their brain can take in. Like, there's a lot of hot button, some political topics, some just like general life topics that Taylor is like hearing and seeing and asking questions. And sometimes she just wants a yes or no answer. But sometimes I'm like, the other day she came home and she goes, Mom, did you know World War III is starting? And thankfully we're in the car because, you don't have to make eye contact. So I was like, okay. So I go into this whole thing about God does not give us a spirit of fear. He gives us a sound mind. We don't have to be afraid. It's okay. And she goes, Mom, I'm not afraid. I just was telling you. Did you know it was starting? And I was like, okay, well, who did you hear that from? But I love that you
awesome.
reminded us of that. Like, she'll ask you the level of question that she wants to
Yeah,
receive.
that's good.
I don't even know if any of this is having to do with
No, it's
boundaries,
good.
but it's almost like
I
there's
think
like
so.
different levels of it.
Yeah,
I think-
kids, ourselves, friends,
Yeah.
everything, absolutely.
I think boundaries, again, I just think that our culture just has such a misconception of what boundaries actually are. And again, simply put, boundaries are limits that keep us emotionally, mentally well. And so really what it comes down to is just communicating expectations.
Yeah.
I think
good.
sometimes we think that, especially like at work, I think like I'm noticing this with Gen Z specifically is just like the lack of communication. They just are like, I need a mental health day. okay,
Sorry, it's not funny. I
that's
should've known.
fine.
Yeah.
I'm an advocate for mental health 100%, but like let's talk about the root of that. Like what's going on? Okay, so what you're really saying is that all of these extra things are being added onto your plate that's causing burnout. Let's talk about how to establish healthy boundaries so you're not having to take all this random time off. Does that make sense? So I think that boundaries are everywhere. It's just like deciding what our relationship with them is going to be. So do you guys think that boundaries play a role in self-care?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think when you are stating, this is my boundary because this is what I need. You're establishing the boundary because of something in you that needs to change, or that you need to let people know, this is what I need from you for me to be okay.
That's good. Yeah. Self-care is such a big topic that as moms it's an easy one to ignore.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, because it's acknowledging what you need matters, which is another thing that moms we're really good at ignoring. Like your needs matter, your peace matters, and helping figure out what those are. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does your self-care look like?
What's your guys's?
Rachel,
Come on, Rachel.
yours.
I don't know, y'all. I don't know.
Really hard day, and you get home and you can do anything. The kids aren't home.
The kids aren't home.
They
they're
are
already in
well
bed.
taken care.
Maybe
Okay,
they're already in
I'm
bed.
asleep. What's your go-to?
Eat something really bad.
Sweet or sweet or salty?
Sweet. Binge watch TV.
Okay.
What was that one show I texted you guys all on our group me, and you guys were like, what? I stayed up till 4 a.m. So this is not where I'm succeeding in boundaries, where I'm like, okay, need self-care. I'm going to binge watch till 4 a.m. this TV show.
You guys don't remember what it was called?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
It was the real emotional one, right?
Yes.
That made you cry.
Oh, one
Yeah.
day? Mm-hmm. One day.
Still can't
Nope,
talk
not
about
doing
it. Yeah. Too much. This kind of goes back to hand in hand with the kids, but I do feel like one little boundary we've done with our kids is we didn't know to do the whole thing with do we have video games for our kids? Do we not? And I grew up in a home where there was no video games, and Evan did. And so he's like, okay, we're going to do it, but we're going to have boundaries. And I'm really proud because we have stuck to it, and they're allowed to have their Switch. They play their Super Mario on Fridays. On
Friday.
So that's their day.
Wow.
That's
And
cute.
so, but you realize even children crave
Yeah, that's
boundaries. And us as adults, we
Yeah.
crave boundaries. We don't even realize it, but we crave it. And I see so much even in their little hearts that they crave that and they abide by it. And I've also learned as parenting, let my yes be yes, let my no be no.
So good.
And like you said too, following through. So anyway, that has nothing to do with self-care. But what do you guys do for self-care? Honestly, I really want to know. I need a new hobby.
Yeah.
Mom, you've become
Sarah?
quite the farmer. Quite the
Quite
gardener.
the farmer.
Or for Sarah.
I do. I call her that.
I think you have to just find what brings you peace.
Yeah.
And for me, that's being outside. That's enjoying the horses. That's enjoying the work of the horses.
That's good.
I have started a small garden,
Yeah.
and
It's very successful.
I'm really enjoying that.
That's cool.
I got 2 squash yesterday.
Come
Wow.
on. Farmer Sarah.
I know. So I have this little baby watermelon and these little baby cucumbers, and I think you just have to find what brings you peace.
Yeah.
What brings me peace is I don't have neighbors, so I'm just outside and it's quiet and the birds are singing and I'm watching horses chew grass and I'm picking weeds out of the garden and admiring what's growing, and so I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Let
but
me know when you want a neighbor.
I would love to have you.
We'll
as a
be right
neighbor.
there.
I love that.
Gio
Then
can help
Gio
you.
can just run over and go see Nini.
Yeah.
That's sweet. What about you?
I think that because my love language is quality time And we are in a season just as a family where like we call it our building years. And so Luke is working really hard at creating like our future. And so like I think my job right now is to like support and champion him in that way, but then also like I'm building our home. You know what I mean? So like we're kind of tag teaming it in that way, but my point is like when Friday rolls around, I don't want to go do my own thing. I'm just not in that. I'm not built that way. I'm actually more anxious when I'm like away from them. I'm like eager to get back with them. But we have this little family tradition on Fridays where we go to a little coffee shop that's right by our house. We sit, we play checkers. And Gio doesn't know how to play checkers, but he thinks he does. He's really good at it. And we share our little coffee cake and our matcha lattes. He usually picks out something to buy at the store. We call it the Geo tax. And then we go run around at the garden center because he like loves to look at all the flowers and smell plants and throw rocks. And loves to throw rocks. And like that's like our just little morning routine.
cool.
And just like having that concentrated time as a family, like
That's good.
I'm sitting down, I'm drinking my matcha, you know, Luke is there, he's helping with G, so it's not like we're both like on or anything like that. I just feel so filled when we do that.
That's cool.
So I wouldn't really say like I have like a personal hobby at this point. Like Luke loves to run. That's like his thing. I'm not a runner. So you and me.
Nope. Together.
Sorry, Aaron. Have fun.
good.
Send us your time.
Them in the garden and on the road, you know?
Luke literally said the other day, that's quite a crop.
That's
I don't know how I feel about
a
it.
compliment.
funny.
But no,
But
that
absolutely
say that.
self-care. Savannah?
Yeah. And I think boundaries too, they help us prevent burnout, you know? So like what have been some boundaries that you guys have maybe set with like work specifically that have helped you guys prevent stress and burnout? Because I know it's like, at least for me, it's been so easy to place my identity in what I do or my accomplishments.
Wow.
Even as a mom, like just like putting my whole identity in being a mom and managing my home. I don't know. I think it's so easy, like when it's do that we get really overwhelmed. So how have you guys set boundaries with stress, with burnout? How have you kind of identified maybe some root causes in those areas, and what do you do about it?
I don't know.
Such good questions.
I don't know. It's funny you say that, like, your self-care is being with your boy, like, with the boys, I should say. My self-care has been alone time, and that's had a lot to do with some boundaries, too. And it's not, I love being the four of us. Like, I am the most content and the most at peace when it's the four of us. But they need me to have alone time. And I mean alone, like, it's quiet. There's no music. There's no phone.
Didn't
like,
one
there's
year
nothing.
Jake gift you like a hotel by yourself?
So fun fact, yes, but my birthday was the weekend of when the world shut down, like of 2020. So that actually didn't happen. But ever since, for my birthday, I get the whole day to myself. I go to the same coffee shop. I sit by myself. This year, I went to the art museum by myself. I ate lunch by myself. I probably look like either someone that's really sad or a really big nerd. But either way,
I think getting lunch by yourself
my
is
gosh.
like an amazing experience.
I read a book, like it was on my own. It was awesome. I sat by the window. It was like, it gave me so much life. And I came back home like singing. Like my family was like, who is this? You know? But so, meaning like, but I've had to create those boundaries. And I think I've become a morning person because that's the only alone time that I get. Yeah. What's funny though, Jake's been training for this triathlon. So his alarm goes off at 4:45 a.m.
Wow.
4:45. Well, I wasn't getting up that early, and so now I'm not the only person awake at that time. It's just funny how, but it's giving him life, and I love that for him. And
Oh,
so,
so
I'm like,
now your boundary time is being interrupted.
I'm like, wait a minute, yeah. But we just have different places of the home that we have our quiet time. But just yesterday, it's so nice outside right now, right? The weather's been amazing. Okay, I was outside with my Bible, with my notebook. It was very obvious what I was doing. The children were not outside. I don't want to say his name, but my husband walked outside, sat right next to me, and starts watching reels on his phone. I was like,
Loud.
oh my gosh. But I was even with the Lord. and I started to feel the anger. Like, just,
That's the sign. A boundary's being
See?
crossed. You had a
Isn't that-
physical response.
but I love that he wanted to like be with. It was such this like.
But he wasn't
Inner-
being with you.
Yeah, but he was like physically there.
to be in her presence.
It was
Be
so
real.
funny. So finally, I was like,
Sarah.
"Can you turn that down? Good morning." Like it was so funny. So anyway, but like boundaries for myself is to learn it's okay to protect that alone time. It's
Yeah.
okay to need that. I think about single moms. Like, I mean, they are burning both ends of the candle, but like. If it can be 15 minutes, I love that you said that about your nighttime. Like, if it can be 15 minutes of, like, the kids are down, you go in your own room or whatever, that's just been boundaries that I've had to create. And then I'm also finding, like, the work balance is, like, when I get out my laptop. That's so silly. But, like, yeah, I can do everything from my phone, but I've tried to, like, okay, when I'm in work mode, I get out the laptop. And when I get out the laptop, the 3-year-old wants to like work too. And so that's helped me be like, okay, I can't do it when he's around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
So
Gio.
it's like-
he goes type.
Type, that's what he said.
Type.
Gio's the sweetest. So it's like a work in progress. Rachel, I know we talk about this all the time. Like, we don't have it figured out ever.
Well, Pastor Jabin was just here, and it was so beautiful.
awesome.
And he was literally like, "Go to the graduation party, go to the coffee, go to the lunch. We're building this place." And I'm like, I'm listening to that, and I'm like, yeah, But then I'm like, oh wait, I probably
your
do need to
calendar
create a
says-
healthy boundary, So it's this like back and forth, like. And that is my prayer in this season. Lord, help me find the balance of
That's
that.
good.
Because I want to be at all these things, but I need to make sure I'm healthy.
Yeah.
My children are healthy,
good.
So help me, friends. Will you guys help me? Will you help me?
Rachel, you are
Help
so good at that. You're like, I'm constantly learning. I'm trying to be better.
You're getting much better.
Thank you,
much
friend.
better.
Thank
good.
you. Thank
Like,
you.
some of our conversations are
compliment.
just, what is sustainable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are helping me.
It's a work in progress for sure. And you have good days and bad days and good
Yeah.
seasons. And
Yeah.
I think even just like evaluating the season, like some seasons are just going to require more yeses and some seasons are just going to require
good.
more no's,
Yeah.
and that's okay. I know I kind of talked about when you feel like a boundary's being crossed, you kind of have that like physical response. And I would say that's more of like a subconscious boundary, maybe not even like an expressed boundary, like, hey, I'm running on E, like I've not been filled up, so I'm getting annoyed at all these things, or I'm getting that tight feeling in my chest every time someone asks me to do, like, a relationship is not healthy when every time you see their name on your phone and you just get that like, what now? Like, what could it possibly be? That's your sign to probably set a boundary. But what are maybe some, you know what I'm talking about? You're just like, I love you, but lose my number. Just find it. You're tempted to send like the AT&T like automated, like this number is no longer in. And no, maybe cut
I've
it
never
out.
thought to do that.
Anyway,
No.
what are maybe some other signs that your boundaries are maybe being violated or crossed, and how can you healthily address that?
Other than like the fetal position and crying.
That's correct. Yes.
That's good.
These are like really hard questions. Okay, say it again. What is it?
So, like, how do you, other than like that physical feeling that I described with maybe like a subconscious boundary, what are maybe some other signs that your boundaries are being crossed, and how do you address that?
Maybe like, do you like yourself lately? Well, like there's some days where I'm like, Erin, I don't even like you. No wonder Jake is like avoiding you, except in the morning when you're trying to have quiet time.
Like yourself lately.
Well, like, because like you're the best thermometer for yourself, or like, do you,
Again, for me, I don't really know about soft boundaries being crossed and being violated, but when hard boundaries are being violated, you'll probably see a whole nother side of me, like, because it angers me.
Yeah.
Angers me.
can you give an example of like, like a hard boundary?
I think that when you experience things that have really come against you, you develop a zero tolerance.
Okay.
And when you have that that zero tolerance, you're very quick to address when a boundary is being crossed. But again, that's just hard boundaries for me. So it's like if I say to somebody, do not ever contact me again.
Okay.
That's what I mean, like hard
Okay.
boundaries. My boundaries, when
makes
they're
sense.
set, they're hard.
That's good.
Don't contact me. Don't contact my family.
Okay. That went 0 to 100.
I know it.
But that is helping because like you're
Do not
talking, I'm like,
ever contact me again.
Meanwhile, I'm like, sorry, I don't take calls on the weekends, but I'd be happy to meet you on Tuesday.
on a day that does not end in Y.
That was
You know,
great.
sometimes
Wow.
with boundaries, okay, like I think of family. We have the best. We're just like surrounded by incredible people. Okay, but sometimes if a boundary is being crossed, often it's because I didn't express it clear enough.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm being clear. Did that make sense? And it really didn't make sense.
Well, and how often do we just think certain things are common sense?
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
I should,
Because some things are common sense.
I don't disagree with you.
Do not ever
But
contact me again.
But I do think part of like sticking up for yourself is like just being plain, no matter how common you think that it is. Ultimately, if you've not expressed your boundary, that's no one's fault other
Right.
than yours.
Yep.
And
Right.
that's on being a mature adult.
That's good.
It's like, well,
good.
everyone should know that. Everyone should just like, I'm not going to use specific examples because it'll be too specific, but everyone should know that it's like, well, if I didn't say,
Yeah,
then I can't project
that's
that
good.
expectation.
That's true. It's true.
And so, but once I have, and I've repeated it,
Repeated it.
then we're
Then
gonna
you're gonna
have
have
to
a
take a step
conversation.
back. Yeah, a conversation for sure. And I do think like it even goes. I think that boundaries, when you feel like that boundary is being crossed, you've expressed it, you've repeated it, and it's still not being respected. I do think like the best way to address it is to have a conversation. And that may include an additional boundary, a +1. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't respect my time, hey, I don't meet with people on this day, or hey, we don't go to family things on our off day. You know what I mean? Like that might be a boundary that some people have. I know that Luke and I try really hard to protect our off days. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just think that a big part of addressing unhealthy boundaries is just being a good communicator.
Being a good communicator. And again, things may change. Your situations may change, or your boundaries have to change. You know, or
That's good.
some boundaries can be lifted, or others added, or you just have to evaluate your season.
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think bottom line, like you said, it just comes down to protecting your peace and protecting your home and protecting your kids. Like those three things come
no one does it
before
like you can. Yeah.
all else. And sometimes that means letting people down and not always being the one to swoop in and save the day. And sometimes it means acknowledging you can't be a fixer. You can be a helper, but you can't be a fixer. But I think that we would all live more peaceful lives if we were
That's really good.
more bold to just say what we need when we need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Hard topic.
Yeah. My gosh.
It was so deep, but necessary. And
Yeah,
I don't
true.
think boundaries are talked about enough. So
That's good.
it's great. Thank you guys. That was really good. Hey, we just want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging out with us just as we just talk about the hard things, the difficult things in life. And just subscribe and join us next time.